Right, now we're going to look at some specific unit conversions in the English system. And so we'll start with the yard. I think the yard and the foot, square yard, square foot, really kind of makes a little bit more sense. And I like it because I can draw this one without having a whole bunch of subdivisions in it, because there's only 3 feet in a yard. And so 1 square yard is basically 1 yard by 1 yard, okay? So that means it's 3 feet by 3 feet, right? 1 yard is 3 feet. And so if you think about how to convert 1 square yard into how many square feet, you just count them up. Each of these boxes is 1 square foot, right? 1, 2, 3 square feet. So each of them is 1 in length. And you have 9 of them in there, so it's 9 square feet make up 1 square yard, okay? So 1 square yard is equivalent to 9 square feet. And basically, if the conversion from yards to feet is that it makes 3 feet, or 3 feet make up 1 yard, then you square the 3 to get 9 to get the square of the 1, which is 1, okay? Right, so if you had 1 yard equals 3 feet, then if you wanted to find 1 square yard, you squared that side of the equation, then you square that side of the equation, and you get 9 square feet, okay? So that's how we do that conversion. And you can see geometrically that it works, okay? It's not just making stuff up with an equation. Same thing with inches now. If I had a square foot and I want to split it up into 12 inches, right? 12 inches, and I'm not going to actually draw it out because I don't want to try to sit there and tinker with 12 divisions in each direction. But if I did that, you'd have 12 rows, 12 columns, makes 144, okay? So 1 square foot is equal to 144 square inches. You square the 12, right? Because 1 foot equals 12 inches. You square this one to get 1 square foot. You square this one to get 144, all right? So those are a couple of really important conversions. So, and I'm going to actually write these off to the side, keep track of them. That way I can start erasing some things and keep more space here. So 1 square foot equals 144 square inches. 1 square yard equals 9 square feet. Okay, so we have those two kind of basic ones. And then we can look at square miles, or yeah, what a square mile is in terms of square feet. And well, that's getting ridiculous, but we can do it. Because we know that 1 square, or 1 mile is 5280 feet, right? So if I had a mile by a mile, right? And I wanted to cut it up into 5,280 feet all the way down, draw those lines across and do 5280 across the bottom and run 5280 columns up, then what do you get? 5280 times 5280. Who wants to do that one? My calculator does. So 5280 times 5280 is a big number. It is, I can't even read it, 27,878,400 square feet is equal to 1 square mile. Okay, so that's awesome. That's a conversion you almost never use, all right, but it's there, it exists. So 1 square mile is 878,400 square feet. That one's awesome. Okay. So there's got to be a nicer conversion. There's got to be some unit in between these two. And right, when we did lengths in English, we had inches, feet, yards, and miles. That was it. We couldn't really do anything else. And there's not, I mean, we could do square yards, right? I could get square yards in there. Basically, I just divide this by 9, right? For every 9 square feet, I get a square yard. Well, it doesn't really help that much. It doesn't make the number that much smaller. It works, so I could do 1 square mile is, what is that? If I divide it by 9, I get 3,000. 3,097,600 square yards. It's still a big number. It's one that you're not going to want to remember. So these two, we don't really like those, all right? We can use them, but they're not great. So there's got to be some intermediate conversion that makes this, that makes our square mile conversion more, I don't know, maintainable or something, sustainable. I don't know what the word is, usable. But anyway, we got to be able to do something, and we have one. It's called an acre. Okay, you probably have heard this before. When you look at your properties, your yards and stuff, like where that your house sits on. People say I have 1 acre of land, or my yard is 1 acre, 1.5 acres, or I have half an acre. I have a property up north that's 25 acres, right? And so acre is a unit of measure that's between the yards, square yards, and the square miles, and it just makes the conversions nicer. Okay, it's kind of that intermediate. And so what we have is an acre is equal, 1 acre is equal to, and I always forget this, it's 4,840 square yards. Okay, 4,840. You could also think of 1 acre, if you wanted to turn it into square feet instead. 1 acre is 43,560. 43,560 square feet. Okay, that's basically the square yards times 9, right? Okay, so that's doable. We can do that. Again, the acre to square feet is another big number. It's not that handy. I like the 4840. That's kind of nice, right? So if you remember the 144, the 9, or can figure those out pretty quickly, and you can get the 4840, well, that works. And then that gets us from the smaller ones to the acre, the intermediate, the middleman. Now we got to get from the acre to the square miles. And 1 square mile it ends up being equal to 640 acres. Okay. And so if you were to multiply 640 by 4840, and I'm going to double check this because I didn't do this ahead of time, but it should work. Oops, 4840. Yeah, I get 3,097,600. It works out perfectly. Okay, I mean, I can prove it to you. I wasn't making that up. I don't know if that focus is not. Is that focusing? It works. All right. So we get our numbers that we needed to. So the ones that I really think are important to know are going to be this one right here, the square feet to square inches, the square yard to square feet, and the acre to square yard, and the acre to square mile. Those 4 are going to be the most crucial for you to be able to recall those or know those. They're handy. Now, to be honest, how many times do you use those in your lifetime where you can't look it up? These you might a little bit more often. This one I could see maybe a little bit more. I don't do a whole lot with the acre and the 4840 square yards, but it's useful to know, and that number is a little bit easier to remember than something like 43,560. I don't know that one. Okay. But anyway, so these numbers are kind of nice conversions. So an acre, let me give you an example here. I have a property that is, see if I can remember I don't actually remember the exact dimensions. It's roughly, I'm going to give you a rough dimension of it. It is, the property my house is on is a big rectangle, and actually a front corner, this corner chunk is taken off for the neighbor. The neighbor owns a little bit here. So my property has my house on it, and then kind of goes behind his and goes deep, okay? It's in the deep part here, the wide part, this is 360 feet wide, and I don't remember the exact number of feet long, but it's approximately a quarter of a mile. Okay, approximately a quarter mile. I'm going to go with quarter of a mile just for the sake of the calculations here. And so if you wanted to figure out what the area is in acres, and I'm going to just ignore the neighbors there because I don't know his dimension. I think he's got half an acre roughly. So we could subtract half an acre off at the end, and we should be pretty close to what my actual dimensions of my property are. So we can figure that out. It's just a bunch of conversions, but look at, we've got all these different, we've got mile, feet, acre, and we've got to get all these things together to make you know, a calculation here. But it's all based on these conversions. So what we need is to figure out how many feet are in a quarter of a mile. Well, a mile itself is equal to 5280 feet. We know that from our length discussion. A quarter of a mile is equal to 5280 divided by 4. I should know that. I really shouldn't go to the calculator on that one. That's 131320. 1320 feet, right? 1320 times 4, 5280. Yes, okay. Let's double check. Yeah, that was right. So that's about 1320 feet. I don't remember exactly the dimension, but that's pretty close. Give or take 100 feet anyway. And then if I want to convert, let's see, I want to convert this whole big rectangle into square feet. All I got to do is multiply the width and the length. And so I take 1320 feet by 360 feet. Of course, not doing that longhand. 1320 times 360 is 475,200 square feet, and I've got to turn that into acres then. Okay, so so how many acres is that? Well, we know that 1 acre is 43,560 square feet. Now I'm going to feet. I could have done this in yards. It actually would have been nicer in yards, but I don't remember how many yards are in a mile. I have to do that conversion as well. So we can do that, but anyway, basically if I've got 475,000 square feet, I want to figure out how many acres. I got to divide out by this, right? It's a conversion. It's a unit conversion. So I'm going to multiply this by a unit fraction where square feet, remember this is like a fraction over 1, a square feet are on the bottom and an acre is on top. So it's 1 acre over 43,560 square feet. So you have to do a division. So I'm going to divide that by 43,560. I have 10.91, approximately 10.91 acres. I'm rounding there. It's 10.909090901. So there's a repeated decimal, I guess, in there somewhere. So 10.91 approximately, and that's the whole big rectangle. Of course, if I take off this half acre for the neighbor, minus 0.5, I end up with the size of my property is about, according to this, 10.41 acres. That's actually really stinking close because my property, according to land survey, is 10.45 acres as far as I know, as far as I remember. So that's really close. I didn't expect it to be that close. I don't think the 1320 is right on. I think it's might be a little short of that. And I guess maybe he really does have half an acre because I wouldn't want to fluctuate from that number too much. Or maybe he's got a little less than half an acre. I don't know, but somewhere in there. That's pretty good. Just coming off the top of my head from memory. Anyway, so 10.5 roughly acres, right? And so that's a decent sized property. I mean, for the area, it's not a farm field. A lot of your farm fields are 30 acres or 100 acres. And obviously, 640 acres is a full square mile. So, this goes a quarter mile deep, but it's, it's relatively narrow, 360 feet or 120 yards if you were going in yards. So, now what we have coming up, the next couple of videos, we're going to be doing some English metric conversions, and we'll look at some volumes as well.